Alright guys, so in today's video we're going to be starting a new backtesting series on USD/JPY where we go through an entire year of backtesting. This is going to be the first episode in the series where we go from the beginning of 2024 all the way up until the end of 2024 to collect some sufficient data on the strategy that I'm about to walk through in this video on USD/JPY. Now, if you guys can stick around until the end of the video, I'm also going to be giving away a ton of free resources as well. So without further ado, let's jump right over to the charts and let's get straight into it. All right, everybody. So thank you for joining me here over on the charts. So getting right into things, let's go through price action from the top down. So here over on the weekly time frame, what I'm currently seeing is the fact that price was overall in this bullish trend, right? So if we just mark things on the very high time frame, this is how I'm currently viewing price. We've had a sweep of these previous lows. Price has held demand. It pushed up, swept this high, didn't quite close above it, but you can see price clearly moving over to the upside, creating higher highs and higher lows, typical uptrending structure. It has now also pulled back into this sort of weekly demand zone right here. So what I'm thinking is that we could maybe see some sort of reaction within this weekly demand zone for some continuation opportunities. So breaking it down to the daily, let's have a look. I would also just go ahead and mark on this as the current structure. All of this in here, I wouldn't count as structure. I would just see that as some sort of like internal liquidity. You can see just by how correctively price was moving here. It was just moving up very correctively, building lots of liquidity for price to ultimately come down and take, which it has now done. Refining this weekly demand zone, you can see price has come into this daily demand zone, swept some internal lows. So the last internal lows before this demand zone. Let's move on over to the lower time frames. 4-hour time frame is still bearish. This was the current breaker structure. Having a look at the 1 hour. Okay, so what I'm liking about the 1 hour, notice how price has kind of wicked out this liquidity to the left. It shifted bullish, so we've had that hourly change of character. Price has now retraced, sweeping some liquidity into an area of hourly demand. So actually, I would be willing to take some buys from here if price does present another confirmation. Obviously, because when you have a situation like this where prior to this reaction from weekly demand, price was moving with quite a lot of bearish momentum and it was overall in this bearish trend, you wouldn't want to, for example, just go down to, like the 5-minute time frame as I usually would and get a confirmation based off that. I would want to see a little bit more, which in this case we obviously have because we've had the hourly change of character. Going over to the M15, just so we can mark this on more clearly, this is the change of character that I'm looking at. You can see price came back down, grabbed a previous low that induced this area of demand. So what I would look for inside this point of interest would be another confirmation to buy. Like I said, I don't want to just buy straight from this area. I would want to see a little bit more confirmation. So on the M5 here, we can see price did in fact break bullish once it came into this zone. And it has also left behind this sort of area of demand with some previous liquidity resting above it. So this for me would be a perfectly valid setup. So I'm going to set my limit here. I want to leave a little bit of room but just below this demand because really anywhere within this whole box, which is quite a huge area, is a valid buying opportunity for me. But obviously we didn't want to have stops like all the way down here. That would just completely ruin the risk to reward. And for this session, I'm going to just do a mechanical 1 to 3 take profit rule just to remove any ambiguity and uncertainty in terms of where we're actually targeting. I think this must have been market open because it won't let me place the limit, but let's place the limit now. Should let us. Okay, now it should let us. we go. So limit is set. Let's have a look how this goes. There we go, nice reaction. Nice one. So pretty perfect trade actually to start off the session. Using all of the confluences that I just discussed previously. So what I'm looking for now, you can obviously see price rallying. So I would now expect it just to be looking to target these previous highs because the demand has held. So if it can start to retrace here, we can maybe look for another buy back up to this liquidity level up here. Cool. So in terms of opportunities to enter again, we could maybe look at the demand on the M15. Actually, this would be valid as well. So you can see price came down, grabbed this internal low, flipped bullish, and has created an area just here. One thing that I always emphasize to the guys inside VIP as well is that you want to be reacting to price, not trying to predict exactly where it's going to go. So for example, in this scenario, I obviously don't know beforehand whether price is going to go all the way down here and react from the demand, or whether it wants to just go from here now that it has swept the liquidity. So that is what I basically mean by reacting to price. This is a valid trade for me, so there's no reason not for me not to take it. So I'm going to set this and we will see how it goes. Yeah, so stop loss on that one. Damn, so we just got wicked out by like 1 pip there and price went in our intended direction. Completely fine with that though. It was a valid trade. We probably could have got a re-entry here. You can see price gave a change of character and then pulled back into the demand, but yeah, I wouldn't have re-entered that after the loss anyway. I would have waited until the next day, so that's completely fine. But yeah, analysis playing out very nicely. You can see price is clearly now just showing this bullish intent away from the demand zone we marked. So what I would kind of be looking for now is just more continuations, maybe back up to at least this previous high up here. So if we look to follow the hourly trend, let's see if we can find a new point of interest. Maybe this one right here that price has just reacted from. I played price slightly too quickly there, but this would be the area I would be looking at. Okay, so you can see at the moment it has reacted from this area. It also came into this sort of refined M15 demand zone. So if we can get a valid confirmation that price has actually just given, all right, so we've had our M5 change of character, which is what I wanted to see, and price has also created an area of demand. This is a valid opportunity for me, so let's set the limit. Let's see how it goes. Stops just below the low, and again, mechanical 1 to 3 TP rule. This mechanical approach, by the way, is a game changer if you haven't tried it yourself. Basically just removes any of the uncertainty when it comes to actually executing the trade. And it also takes out any element of greed that people often blame, right? They blame their psychology. They say, oh, it was because I was greedy. But if you have this mechanical rule, then you can't be greedy because it's just a mechanical rule, right? There we go. So price has tagged us in. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to play it on higher time frame just so it's a bit quicker for you guys as well. But it's looking good so far. Yeah, there we go. TP hit on that one. Perfect trade. Again, reacting to price, not trying to predict exactly where it's going to go. Cool. So again, just very simply looking to follow this bullish structure back up to some previous levels to the left. In this case, like I said before, I'm looking for is just for price to continue up towards this liquidity. There's not really anything that I would likely reverse from before taking that high, right? If you look to the left, there's not really anything that it would likely react from. So at the very least, we can expect it to travel up towards that liquidity level. So again, what I'm looking for here is just a retracement to continue buying. At the moment, this would be the only level that I would be seeing. Okay, no, so it doesn't look like price is pulling back there. So we can now look for a new point of interest. I'm just going to really quickly mark on this as well, just so we know if price hits it or not. Okay, so next point of interest for me would be this 15-minute demand zone. One thing that I often do when, for example, price is moving in this sort of parabolic fashion and isn't really pulling back, you've got all of this momentum in the market. So in situations like this, sometimes it's essential to go down to the lower time frames to look for a point of interest, because if, for example, you're just looking on a 4-hour, there's not really anything here unless price came all the way back down to this demand zone. But given the momentum, is it likely going all the way back down there? You know, probably not. So that's why here I am looking at the lower time frames at a different point of interest instead, just to kind of see like a more refined look of price, or see price from a more refined view. Obviously still waiting for the same confirmation as well. So nothing just yet. Let's keep playing price. Maybe if it can break this high. Okay, nope, so it swept the low again. Right, there we go. So that's what I was looking for. Price came into this refined area. You can now see it start to shift bullish just here. This was our change of character. This is, however, the Asian session, so I'm just going to fast forward this. Damn, yeah, so that was slightly annoying. The entry happened in Asia. This would have been my entry right here once I saw price creating liquidity above the demand. Slightly annoying, just inconvenient timing. Obviously here in the UK, the Asian session happens overnight, so I wouldn't have been trading that anyway. So again, just adapting to the new breaker structure. What could we see now? Maybe a retracement, maybe back down towards this extreme. So prices swept these internal lows. For the point of interest here, right, as well, I'm looking in the current leg, so between the low and the high. So anywhere in this whole range is valid for me. And yeah, actually this would be a valid opportunity as well. So at the moment, you can see price gave a change of character right here, confirming the trade. And we've got some liquidity resting above demand. So I'm going to set this trade. This would be a valid trade. And again, going for that 1 to 3 target. Okay, no, so it doesn't look like it's pulling back for us. Cool, so price is just moving up without us. We can now look for a different entry. Again, adapting to the new breaker structure. Still targeting that liquidity level though, so we still have a nice opportunity to buy up towards it. Okay, no, so it doesn't look like it's pulling back. Cool, so if we zoom out now, what we can see is price is still bullish, but it has now swept that liquidity level. So if we just get rid of some of these markings just to clear things up a bit. What we could maybe see here, we could maybe look for a counter trend opportunity, because now that this higher time frame liquidity is swept right, and given that we have all of this sort of daily imbalance, it's very likely you see some sort of correction lower. You could also, we'll mark this on as a change of character as well, because on the 4-hour time frame, this was the current lower high, so the 4-hour has now flipped bullish, right? So yeah, if price can start to flip bearish on the lower time frames, I would be happy to look for a counter trend sell just to some of the more immediate liquidity levels where previous people were buying. We haven't had any structure shifts just yet though, so I'm not interested in selling at the moment. Right, there you go. So that's you're getting the sells coming into play. Still bullish though. It left equal highs as well. So what I would maybe look for here, if we play price on a little bit more. Okay, so maybe we could see some buys from this whole area. This whole area is like the 4-hour demand, which caused that change of character. So this whole area here would be a valid point of interest for me. You can also see as well, to the left, price has swept this inducement just above it. So yeah, I'm not really interested in the sells anymore actually. I'd rather just look for the buys here. There was probably an initial entry here, which I missed because I played it slightly too quickly. But yeah, you can see here price starting to shift back bullish. Nothing just yet though. Maybe if we can see at least an M15 change of character here. Yeah, so exactly like that. That's what I was looking for. M15 change of character. Price created. You have this area of demand, but there's no liquidity above it. So what I would do here instead is look for an entry off this more discounted one. One of the criteria that I have for entries is to always look for price to sweep some previous liquidity first of all. So what I'm going to do here is enter based off this imbalance, because price may not want to come to the demand, right? It might just react from the imbalance and then go from there. So anywhere really below this last bit of liquidity is a valid entry point for me. If price can pull back into it, which it has just done, as you guys can see. Yeah, so it did come into the demand in this particular instance, but like I said, it doesn't have to. I would rather just get a slightly less refined entry rather than trying to get those sniper entries all the time, as opposed to missing the trade altogether. Yeah, you can clearly see though as well, it was a clear hourly demand zone after price came into this refined area. And there we go. So nice TP here. So as I said, UJ is presenting some very nice results so far, and this is what I found live tests in it as well in the live market. So yeah, just basically now looking for more continuations up towards the high. If we can see a pullback here, that would be ideal, and we can look for some more buying opportunities. Okay, no, so it doesn't look like it wants to pull back. Maybe if it can come down into this region. Okay, so perfect area, but there wasn't an entry there. You can see price just tapped and went. I think this was probably CPI news at 1:30 on a Thursday. So obviously it wouldn't have been trading that anyway. Again, adapting to the new breaker structure, we now have this. If we just zoom out to the left and look to the left as well, where is the next area we could see price push back up into? Well, to be honest, at the moment, it kind of just looks like price is very much likely just to rally back towards these previous highs. So I would rather just be looking for buys, not trying to predict a reversal or anything like that. Okay, so my sort of idea for now would be to see if we can see price sweep this low. If that can happen, this would be the next POI that I would consider. I wouldn't want to buy above this wick though, because very often with a news wick like this, it gets taken out. Yeah, like exactly like that. There we go. Price swept that liquidity. Notice the reaction that you're seeing as well. This isn't quite valid because it hasn't closed above. I need to see a closure above this level. Okay, there we go. So we got a closure above. I'm happy to enter anywhere in this whole imbalanced region with a slightly bigger stop. and we'll go for a 1 to 3 again, as always. The reason I'm entering here, by the way, is because this is the last bit of liquidity in this whole range. So my thought process is, if price goes any lower than this, then the trade is invalid and I don't want to be in it. Yeah, okay, so little loss on that one. Actually, I shouldn't have entered that anyway, because it was in Asia session, so that was just completely my fault. I'm still liking the idea of buys here, though. You can see prices come into the demand after sweeping that CPI news wick, and it has now re-grabbed the low. So if it can break above this high, I would be happy to re-enter. Looks like it might. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. So that's what I was waiting for. Lots of momentum coming back in, as you guys can see. We've got this area right here of demand. So if price can pull back into this region, I'm happy to enter here. Stops just below and target a 1 to 3. Okay, nope, so loss on that one. 2 trade losing streak, but it's fine. We're still 6% up overall. And it looks like price just wants to come to a more discounted area. Maybe this one that it's just reacted from. You can see this area, clear area of demand. Lots of people now, I think, are going to be trying to sell as well, seeing this as a breaker structure. So I'm liking the look of this, actually. And it looks like I just missed the entry. So the entry should have been here. This was the change of character. We should have been entering from this demand zone. Maybe if price can push back down into this region, this is a bit of a riskier entry because just because we missed the initial one. But if price can retest into this, I see no reason we shouldn't enter, and we can still get a 1 to 3 on it anyway, so this is completely valid. Let's see if price can retest into the area. Okay, no, so I'm going to cancel that now. Slightly annoying because we missed that first entry, which played out to perfection. And yeah, you can see here now as well, we have had the M15 flip back bullish as well. Okay, so new point of interest I would look at, maybe this area. Okay, nope, so price has just created a new breaker structure. Good analysis, but unfortunately I did play that slightly too quickly and so missed the entry. But yeah, overall still bullish, so still looking to capitalize on these buys. Quite difficult PA here because it's not really given any major pullbacks. One area I would possibly watch out for is this supply zone up here on the daily time frame. You can see we have equal highs here as well though, so still interested in buying from here. Maybe from this level. I like this one as well because it is in the current hourly leg. This one right here. So this current hourly bullish leg. Price did give a change of character as well, which is what we want to see. And it did leave as well this area of imbalanced demand. So if we can get an entry right here, that would be nice. Stops below the low and standard 1 to 3 target once again. Let's see if it can pull back for us. Okay, nope, so looks like didn't respect our analysis there. Yeah, I think we were just slightly early. You can see we just got wicked out of that trade. Don't really want to re-enter this though. So I'm going to look for a new area. Yeah, so spot on point of interest, just shame it wicked us out. Yeah, so this is the next area that I'd be interested in. You can see price came down, swept Asia lows, came into a discount of the current hourly leg, gave a change of character right there, created an area of imbalanced demand just here. We've got some liquidity above it as well, so this is a valid entry. Price can pull back, stops just below, and we'll go for that 1 to 3 again. Nice one, there we go. So that puts an end to that loss streak. I think we had 3 losses in a row. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3 losses in a row, but that 1 win made up for it. So it's not really an issue. Obviously as well, you could have maybe targeted this high if you weren't using if we weren't using the mechanical target rule. Okay, so price is coming lower anyway. Bit of consolidation at the moment. There's not really anything clear for me here. Maybe if price can come down slightly lower and grab this 4-hour low. Yeah, so like that. Once I saw this kind of consolidation, I didn't want to try to buy above this area. So yeah, we have this area of liquidity just been taken out. Damn, so again, I played it slightly too quickly. This should have been the entry right here. You guys can see we had the change of character and price has now broken structure again. So again, this would be a riskier entry, but if price can pull back into this sort of imbalance down here, I'm happy to enter off this whole region. With stops just below. Particularly because it did sweep that 4-hour liquidity as well. I'm happy to enter this if it can pull back for us. Ideally, I would have cancelled that, but we're in the trade now, so let's see. Yeah, so I should have cancelled that, to be honest, because price came up, swept the opposing liquidity. Again, I just played it slightly too quickly. Okay, so next level. What can we see? Maybe price has swept this 4-hour low into the imbalance. Still overall bullish, and yeah, still looking for price to come higher. Maybe if we can see an entry from here. Nothing just yet though. Okay, maybe if price can pull back into this area now that we've had it break above this level. Actually, I don't really like this though, because you could also say this was the supply which put in a change of character. Where did it come into to the left? Kind of swept these daily highs. So if we're looking for a bigger retracement here, we could maybe consider some sells back down. This would be counter trend, but the reason I'm liking this is because it did kind of give an hourly change of character as well. So you could interpret this as a sweep into supply, since it did also sweep the daily liquidity just here to the left. So maybe if we can see like exactly like that, price breaking lower and breaking lower time frame structure like that. If it can pull back into this sort of imbalance, I'm happy to enter there. Keep in mind that this would be lower probability because it is counter trend. I'm aware of that, but because we are already up 7% on the account, we have a nice buffer to play with anyway. So let's see if we can get a pullback. Okay, nope, so I'm going to cancel this now. If price comes all the way back up here, I wouldn't want to be in the sells anymore. Yeah, there we go. So analysis playing out perfectly, but no entry on, unfortunately. And I'm no longer interested in selling or buying from that area. Yeah, there you go. So price did create a new low in the end. Keep in mind though, it is overall still bullish and it has now come back into the demand. Previous lows have been taken out. So we can now look for some buys from here instead if we're seeing that initial area there as an inducement. And yeah, this is perfect actually. You can see here, 5 minute change of character, clear level of imbalanced demand. So this is fine for an entry. Stops just below the low and 1 to 3 TP. And the change of character, by the way, I'll just mark it on for you guys, was this level right here. Very nice, looking good. And there we go, so TP hit. Cool, so now just looking for more continuations back up towards this high. As I said before, it is still overall bullish, and that sell I was looking at was counter trend. You can see very corrective looking pullback as well. There's not really any structure being formed here, any downtrending structure at least. Okay, so next point of interest we have this area that price has just swept some previous lows into. 5 minute has flipped bullish as well. As for entry areas, I'd be fine entering from this whole imbalance right here. Price can pull back for us before taking out this high. Okay, nope, so stop loss on that one. Price looks to be coming lower. Yeah, so what I would actually look for next is a regrab of the low. Actually no, so it did come down and held this demand. We should have been looking at that ideally. So yeah, from a 15-minute time frame perspective, this is what I'm seeing. So we've had the initial change of character, price then retraced, sweeping this internal low, and has now sort of pushed up towards this high. Hasn't yet broken structure, but it looks very likely. Yeah, there you go. So there's that breaker structure I was talking about. Next point of interest I was about to say was Asia low. And price has also reacted from the demand zone. Haven't yet had a change of character. So this wasn't quite valid because price didn't close above it. So we can now look at the new breaker structure right here. Okay, so still looking for longs. back up towards these previous highs. Next point of interest for me would be this hourly liquidity level. There we go. So that has been taken out. Should have been entering from here. You can see price gave that M5 change of character. So what I'm going to do instead is just enter market execution right here, just because I missed that initial move. And we will see how this goes. Nice push so far, very close to stop loss. Let's see if they can keep pushing for us. Okay, nope, so little loss on that one. Yeah, okay, so next idea would be now we've seen a sweep of this previous low into the demand. We can look for some longs from here. If not here, then most likely we see a sweep of this previous low instead, which does seem more likely actually. But yeah, let's see if it gives a change of character here. If it does, I'll enter. Yeah, so exactly like that. That's what I was kind of waiting for. Actually, no, I'm not really a fan of this, to be honest. Yeah, there we go. So second idea playing out, prices come down, re-grab the lows. And you can see it coming lower as well. So next point of interest, if we zoom back out to higher time frame, next point of interest would actually be this daily demand zone that price is coming quite close towards. You can still see it is overall bullish, quite a corrective looking pullback on the daily, and after a huge move up like this, you do expect, you know, some sort of retracement as we're seeing now. But yeah, for the time being, I would still be interpreting this as a retracement. So here, price has swept the inducement into the demand. Nothing entry wise just yet, so we'll keep playing price. Ideally we get a re-grab of the low and then a change of character, or for price to break this high up here. Those would be the only two things which would make me take a trade, and as we've just seen, that second scenario is playing out. Lots of momentum here. So ordinarily what we would maybe look for is for price to retrace into, you know, this sort of demand zone. But again, like I touched on previously, given all of the momentum we have here, is it likely price is going to pull all the way back down here? Probably not. So what we can look for instead is a new area if price starts to develop some more. I'm not really seeing anything at the moment though. Maybe if it can retrace into this area. You can see it building all of that liquidity above it. It did actually break the main high, but this area is still valid for me. So we have had this main breaker structure. This area of demand, like I said though, still valid, particularly because it has swept all of these previous lows, as you guys can see. So same thing as always, down to the M5. Let's see if we can get an entry. Quite corrective at the moment, so just waiting to see how this plays out. A sweep of this demand would also be valid. Okay, fast forward Asia though. Obviously we're not trading Asian session. So what I would actually look for here now, because it didn't respect the sort of top of that demand, I would actually wait for a sweep of this low and the Asian low as well, which is just above. Right, there we go. So we've seen exactly that. For the change of character, we need to see this high broken, which looks likely. Right, there we go. That's what I was waiting for. Okay, so in terms of entries, I would look for a pullback into this region. Now that we've seen another breaker structure and some liquidity form above it. So I'll set my limit there. I want to have stops ideally below Asia low rather than trying to get, you know, a sniper entry. One thing I will always do with the stop loss, by the way, is I'll have it in a logical place that actually makes sense, because if price, for example, came below this area, then I know that that would actually invalidate the trade. Whereas if I had my stops here, that doesn't necessarily invalidate the trade, because price could still be bullish, or it would still be bullish even if that level did break. So let's see, can we get a retracement? Doesn't look like it. Okay, no, so I would cancel this limit now. Price getting away from us. Yeah, so spot on analysis, just no entry, unfortunately. But yeah, guys, this video is already getting quite long, so I'm going to end it here. And as I said, we're going to make this a series. I'm going to continue this off from where we left off this time in the next video. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you guys check out the description below, I will put the full training plan for this strategy in there for completely free that you guys can check out right now.